The FBI has not shed any light on the confusing and contradictory timeline, like how long was it from when Stephen Paddock opened fire to when Mandalay Bay made the first call to police, and how long did it take police to respond to the hotel and make their way to the 32nd floor. Several news organizations have filed lawsuits trying to get the 911 tapes released. Shannon.
Thank you very much, Trace. Well, the U.S. plans to allow the sale of lethal weapons to Ukraine for use against pro-Russian separatists. Supporters say it's long overdue. Critics say it brings us closer to a real conflict with the Russians. Lucas Tomlinson has more tonight from the Pentagon.
The Trump administration ending the arms embargo on Ukraine, allowing them to buy 50 caliber sniper rifles and other light arms from U.S. companies. But the U.S. government will not be supplying the weapons. Still, the decision was applauded on Capitol Hill.
This president, at this time, with his national security team, is finally doing what people on both sides of the aisle have tried to get administrations to do. I mean, these weapons are to defend Ukraine against Russia's aggression.
Russia hawk Senator Tom Cotton turned it up a notch, quote, "This is a break from failed Obama-era policies to make Russia pay a cost for its aggression." With this decision, the Trump administration is reminding Vladimir Putin and his cronies that they lost the Cold War and we won't tolerate their bullying of our friend Ukraine. But the State Department pushed back, saying weapons have been available for purchase before, after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014 and supported Kremlin-backed fighters in eastern Ukraine. Quote, "Under the previous two administrations, the U.S. government has approved export licenses to Ukraine, so this is nothing new." But a Green Beret and former Bush White House official says otherwise.
This is a significant break from the Obama administration. It is the largest sale that we've ever done. It is lethal, and it is going to send a message to the Russians, and they're not going to be happy about it.
As expected, the decision angered Moscow, officials calling the policy a dead end, which will only lead to more violence. Earlier this month, President Trump's national security advisor hinted changes were coming to the White House's handling of Russian aggression.
What we're continuing to do is strengthen Ukrainian defensive capabilities.
Ending the arms embargo comes at a time when the White House is pushing back on claims President Trump has been too soft on Russia. Ukraine's security service arrested an aide to the prime minister for being a Russian spy. More evidence things are heating up in Eastern Europe. Shannon?
Lucas Tomlinson at the Pentagon. All right, where in the world in 90 seconds? Turkey wants to imprison New York Knicks star Enes Kanter for insulting President Erdogan in a series of tweets. State prosecutors calling for him to be jailed for 4 years. Kanter says he's going to keep on trash talking his words, the Turkish president, and that 4 years doesn't sound too bad for speaking his mind. Well, new tonight on the Australian car ramming horror in Melbourne. Authorities have been saying there were no indications it was terrorism. The Australian citizen of Afghan descent plowed into a crowd, injuring 19 earlier today. Now tonight, in an interview with Australia's ABC News, a Victoria police spokesman says this about the suspect, quote, "He spoke about dreams, he spoke about voices, but he also did attribute some of his actions to the poor treatment of Muslims." When asked if that means it could be terrorism, he answered, "That's certainly one aspect we're exploring in respect to the motivation." Well, with just weeks to go before the Winter Olympics in South Korea, U.S. Marines are training with their Korean counterparts for any trouble that could come from North Korea. South Korean and U.S. Marines joining in military exercises in sub-freezing temperatures, including shirtless hand-to-hand combat in the snow. A Korean officer telling reporters the Marine Corps reconnaissance forces will do our best for the Olympic security operations. Well, coming up, controversial comments forcing the founder of a big supporter of football, the anthem, and President Trump to step down. The details next. And Republicans ratcheting up their attacks on the FBI and now the Obama administration. A full report straight ahead. And it could be one of President Trump's most important achievements. But if the media doesn't talk about it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. We're going to look into that straight ahead.
Before I had the shooting, burning of diabetic nerve pain.
These feet like to style my dog as a kid.
And were pumped to open my own salon. But I couldn't bear my diabetic nerve pain any longer. So I talked to my doctor, and she prescribed Lyrica.
Lyrica may cause serious allergic reactions, suicidal thoughts, or actions. Tell your doctor right away if you have these, new or worse depression, unusual changes in mood or behavior, swelling, trouble breathing, rash, hives, blisters, muscle pain with fever, tired feeling, or blurry vision. Common side effects: dizziness, sleepiness, weight weight gain, swelling of hands, legs, and feet. Don't drink alcohol while taking Lyrica. Don't drive or use machinery until you know how Lyrica affects you. Those who've had a drug or alcohol problem may be more likely to misuse Lyrica.
Now I have less diabetic nerve pain.
Ask your doctor about Lyrica.
For 100 years, heritage and innovation have made Gillette the #1 shave in America. Now get Gillette quality at lower prices every day. Brought to you by 1,200 workers in Boston. We're proud of giving you our best. Gillette, the best a man can get.
You know what I'm thinking? Why not use it? I mean, we're talking about $6 trillion here. That's a whole lot of cash out there people are just sitting on. Many older Americans are in a tough spot right now. They just don't have enough savings to get by. It's their biggest concern. They could be our family, our friends. And then there's that $6 trillion. That's the amount retired homeowners have already paid into their homes. It comes down to an average of more than $200,000 per senior household. So, why not use a reverse mortgage loan to access that equity?
Find out more. Call us today to receive a free information kit complete with a DVD presented by Tom Selleck. The kit will help you understand more about a reverse mortgage, decide if it's right for you, and the simple ways you need to qualify. Call 1-800-815-1955.
A reverse mortgage loan from AAG uses your built-up home equity to give you cash now and when you need it in the future. Pay it back when it works for you or in one lump sum when you leave the home.
Call now for a free, no-obligation information kit to find out how a reverse mortgage loan can pay for living expenses, medical bills, even credit card bills. Call 1-800-815-1955.
I know what you're thinking. Why me? And why AAG? Well, I've done my homework, and I know how dedicated AAG is to helping retirees in a caring, ethical way. I trust them. I think you can too.
If you're 62 or older and own your home, the info kit will show you how to access your home's equity to give you cash when you need it. It'll eliminate those monthly mortgage payments and give you the extra money to renovate the home or pay off bills. Call 1-800-815-1955.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. Mail letters, ship packages, all the services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
You may have heard leaks and claims coming out of those secret meetings on the Hill, with FBI and Justice Department figures under fire from Republicans who say they've shown anti-Trump bias. Ellison Barber is live here in Washington tracking all the very latest. Good evening, Ellison.
Good evening, Shannon. The president has repeatedly criticized the FBI and the special counsel investigation. More and more Republicans seem to be doing the same thing. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley reportedly said acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe needs to be replaced. McCabe visited Capitol Hill today, the second time this week. In all, he spent roughly 14 hours testifying before House committees behind closed doors. Sources tell Fox News during the interviews, Republicans pressed McCabe on when he found out the Clinton campaign and the DNC helped fund the now notorious Trump dossier. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul tweeted that it's, quote, time to investigate high-ranking Obama government officials who might have colluded to prevent the election of Donald Trump. This could be worse than Watergate. I spoke with Senator Paul earlier today and asked about that tweet, what evidence he has. Here's some of what he had to say.
We're now talking about an FBI agent who is talking to his mistress and at the same time saying that somebody else named Andy was involved. Could that be Andy McCabe, the second in charge of the FBI? That sounds to me like a possible collusion. We've also got the same kind of high-level career politician or career intelligence officers or folks in the Department of Justice who were involved somehow with the dossier on Trump that was paid for by the Democrat National Committee, and then that high-ranking official was meeting with the people from the opposition research group. So there's a lot going on here, but really what it tells me in general is we need more oversight of these people.
Democrats say at this point, Republicans are not engaged in a truth-seeking effort, but an effort to discredit Robert Mueller and his investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia.
The urgency, I think, was the fact that Mr. Mueller, Special Counsel Mueller, is moving closer and closer. He's gotten some indictments.
This hearing is part of an attempt at a lot of diversion from the real issue, which was the Russian attempt to subvert the last election, the possible collusion, well, the certain collusion by many members of the Trump campaign in it, the possible collusion by the president himself.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders says the White House does not intend to fire Robert Mueller. She said that on America's Newsroom today. In the same breath, she referred to the Mueller investigation as a hoax. Shannon?
All right, Ellison Barber with the very latest. Thank you. Well, the FBI pushing back on attacks against the embattled agency, saying this, quote, attacks on our character and demeaning comments about the FBI will not deter agents from continuing to do what we have always done, dedicate our lives to protecting the American people. For more on that, let's bring in David Avella, the chairman of GOPAC, and Democratic strategist Scott Bolden. Great to see you both tonight.
Good seeing you too.
Okay, so we're getting word today also that there's been this subset of Republicans within the Intelligence Committee on the House side having their own meetings about potential worries of bias with respect to some things we've seen uncovered with FBI and DOJ officials. Scott, do you blame them?
I don't blame them, but I'm not a Republican, if you will. Here's the deal. They can meet, they can talk, but the FBI and DOJ is an independent agency of ideals. And I'll be honest with you, what's bothersome about this is that they seem to be politicizing and weaponizing the political support or political comments by certain agents or officials during a campaign. But there's a big leap from being politically biased. And if you want to investigate Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama for colluding to prevent Donald Trump from becoming the president, well, I got to tell you, during a presidential campaign, aren't we all colluding in support of or against the opponent that we don't want to win? I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about that, we'll do X, Y, and Z, what we can to advocate for our guy. That has no place in the FBI. In the Mueller investigation, Stroh's was wrong in his comments. He was terminated or he was removed from it. And this happens in investigations all the time. I'm a former prosecutor from New York. And so we've got to there's a bucket of political stuff that Republicans want to use as a possible bias. I don't think it rises there yet. And there's this other bucket of hardcore investigations that have many layers of review. And the ultimate decision on what happens to Donald Trump in the Mueller investigation is going to be up to Donald Mueller. No one else.
The special counsel. And Dave, I mean, his team seems pretty confident. They feel like they're in the clear. The president's going to be in the clear. But just so folks remember what we're talking about, Senator Rand Paul, his tweet today, time to investigate high-ranking Obama government officials who might have colluded to prevent the election of real Donald Trump. He said this could be worse than Watergate. That's quite a statement to make.
It is. Thankfully, though, the Obama Democrats turned Clinton apologists were as ineffective at trying to influence the election as they were at running the Justice Department. And Mueller could have picked many of people to be on this panel to help him do this investigation. And he chose to pick Clinton apologists who wanted to turn this into a therapy session for why they ultimately lost the election.
Well, they certainly didn't, though, because she lost. Donald Trump won. What is it to investigate?
Let's talk about Peter Strzok, because he is somebody who was involved in these key investigations, and he is somebody who also, we're told, made those key edits on the draft that was exonerating her before she'd ever been interviewed, before key people had been interviewed, before immunity deals had been made. That's significant to a lot of people to say, like, this guy actually had a hand in crafting the conversation and the Comey statement about her, but he was clearly on her side. Well, you can see how for some people that's disconcerting.
Well, certainly from an appearance standpoint, but let's be real clear. Strzok is not the only person making that call. Comey's making that call. There are hundreds of FBI agents and support who put that together. But he was the one
person editing this thing that we know of. There weren't hundreds of agents, but he was changing language from gross negligence to careless kinds of things that speak to whether or not she could be potentially legally liable for what she did.
He's certainly in a position to do that, but those are recommendations. And those recommendations go to not only Comey, but other senior people who are aware of that investigation. So I don't put much stock in that.
Well, it's ultimately the way the statement by Mr. Comey was read, then director of the FBI.
Sure, Scott's right. I mean, ultimately it came down to what Comey wanted in there or not. It is equally interesting, though, the same Democrats who are saying there shouldn't be an investigation of Hillary Clinton because of what she did years ago, that's in the past, are cheering the only indictments that have come in this investigation, which are things that have been done in the past by folks. It's the biggest double standard you see in justice.
Well, Hillary Clinton's a private citizen. My goodness gracious, are we really going to spend time, money, and resources?
I don't think Paul Manafort was a public citizen.
If we
he got investigated when he was a campaign official, and this
Hillary Clinton was when she was Secretary of State on her actions of what she did in office.
She got investigated, and she was cleared.
Well,
we need to move on.
Well, the Inspector General, to my understanding, has not yet fully moved on because he's got some questions about how this thing went down, too. We're not going to solve it tonight, but we do think, David, for playing hurt tonight with a few vocal cards strapped behind his back. David and Sky, great to see you both always.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. All right, Attorney General Jeff Sessions reportedly ordering Justice Department prosecutors to ask FBI agents about why they didn't seek charges in the Uranium One deal involving Hillary Clinton. The effort is reportedly about examining whether or not a second special counsel investigation is warranted. The controversial Uranium One deal is a 2010 transaction in which the Obama administration, including Hillary Clinton's State Department, allowed the sale of uranium to Russia's state atomic energy company. There were alleged ties to Clinton Foundation donors. Amid all that, we'll see if there is a separate investigation upcoming. Also, the Resist movement picks a new fight in the war on Christmas. We're going to discuss the resistance latest shenanigans on the other side of this break.
DirecTV has been rated #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 17 years running. But some people still like cable, just like some people like pre-shaken sodas, having their seat kicked on an airplane, being rammed by a shopping cart, sitting in gum, and walking into a glass door. But for everyone else, there's DirecTV. For #1 rated customer satisfaction over cable, switch to DirecTV and for a limited time get a $100 reward card. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
Here's to the heroes, America's small business owners. And here's to the heroes behind the heroes who use their expertise to keep those businesses covered. And here's to the heroes behind the heroes behind the heroes who brought us delicious gyros. Actually, the Gyro hero owns Vero's Gyros, so he should have been with those first heroes. That's better. So to recap, small business owners are heroes, and our heroes help heroes be heroes when they're not eating gyros delivered by... you know what I mean.
It's happened to you before. Turn the ignition and all you hear is clicking. Another drained car battery. JackPack is a rechargeable lithium-ion jump starter that attaches directly to your battery. No more jumper cables. Its built-in air compressor fills flat tires, pool toys, and more. JackPack rapidly charges smartphones and tablets. Use super bright LED beam and SOS modes for roadside help. JackPack is ultra durable and easy to stow. For a limited time, use promo code SAVE20 and get JackPack for just $69.95 plus free shipping. Call or visit jackpack.com today.
Rooted in racism, trees separate a California golf course and black neighborhood. Now, Larry Elder reacts to the decades-old controversy on Tucker Carlson Tonight.
Paid spokesperson. Have you or a loved one been prescribed the blood thinner Xarelto or Pradaxa? The FDA has already received reports of dangerous bleeding events in people taking these drugs. Xarelto and Pradaxa's side effects include internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, bleeding of the brain, or even death. If you or someone you love has experienced any of these injuries while taking or Pradaxa, you may be entitled to compensation. To find out more information about how your rights can be protected and what compensation you may be entitled to, a special helpline has been set up. There may be time limitations on your claim, so don't delay in getting the information that you need. So, if you or a loved one have been prescribed the blood thinners Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced any dangerous bleeding events, including internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, bleeding of the brain, or even death, you may be entitled to compensation for those injuries. Call today. For more information and a free case review, call now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, Jim, that'll be $462. How would you like to pay for that?
Really? And Medicare won't cover any of it?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid not.
If you're without coverage or soon will be, you should give us a call. Physicians Mutual Insurance Company has affordable dental insurance to help pay for the care you need. Look, even a simple checkup can cost over $100, and other services like root canals or bridges can cost you hundreds more. But for as little as $1 a day, we can help cover more than 300 procedures. Things like cleanings, fillings, crowns, even dentures. Plus, you can see any dentist you want. There are no networks, no deductibles, and no annual maximum. Call this number now for a free information kit with all the details about this affordable dental insurance. Don't get caught without the coverage you need. Take control of your dental health. Call now.
The resistance movement against President Trump, never missing an opportunity to speak ill of him, has made some Christmas cards. One says, delightfully, all I want this year is President Trump impeached. Well, the Vice President for Business and Culture at the Media Research Center, Dan Gaynor, joins us now with his view on all this. Listen, I like it. It's a free country. You can say whatever you want there, but it's a little odd, I think, celebrating the birth of Christ with some of these cards and messages. But hey, you know,
well, I think
they're free to do it.
When you get to the point of celebrating the birth of Christ with giving money to Planned Parenthood, which
that's
would
true. That is
rip
one of
the
these
baby
cards.
Jesus into little component parts and sell them to the highest bidder,
which
that's
they
wrong.
deny doing. They deny doing, for the record. But that is a little bit odd to have a Christmas card. And I've seen gift certificates that you can give for Christmas from Planned Parenthood, and they will say, well, it's to help with women's health. But yes, the implications around Christmas time, it's hard for a lot of people to square those. Okay, there are also these socks that are a suggested Christmas gift. They are Girls Against More Male Art. They have this description because it's not that we hate male art, it's just that we don't really need more of it. So apparently stop with the socks, stop with the male art.
Yeah, which basically says, of course they hate male art, and they don't want it. If you don't want any more of something, you don't like it. If somebody walks up to you and say, "Hey, here's another Mona Lisa. Would you like it or not?" If their answer is no, you got problems.
Okay, so let's move on to another topic. The president, the assessment about ISIS and breaking up the caliphate, at least the geographic hold that they were having in that area. Not everybody is giving the president credit on this.
Not everybody. Try almost nobody. You look at the news stories, what few stories there are about defeating ISIS, it's all passive. ISIS was defeated. Well, one of the basic journalism things is, the who, what, where, when, why. Who defeated ISIS? Instead of the active Trump's, or Mattis-led assault defeats ISIS, Trump's almost nowhere in these stories. You have to, use an investigative team just to try to find his name in a story. And it's like every other Trump accomplishment. Whether it's the economy, which is booming, the stock market, which is going great, they don't want to give him any credit. And then the things the other things he's done, judges and getting rid of regulation, they actually want to fight him on.
No, they're opposing that. Yeah. I mean, for sure. Okay, so now let's get to this idea of Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, who just presided over this, huge tax cut, along with the House Speaker Paul Ryan and the president. And they got the government funded. They're doing some positive things, but of course there are people who don't feel that way in the mainstream media. He talking about the New York Times editorial page. He says he doesn't really care what they think about him. I have to deal with the inevitable criticism that comes along with doing a job like this. But he says, I care about the opinions of people that I respect. Basically suggesting that does not include the New York Times.
Well, I don't blame him. You can tell someone got their Christmas wish because I'm completely in sync with Mitch McConnell on this.
Oh.
That doesn't happen too often. And he's spot on. The New York Times is just the voice of the left. It doesn't try to normalize its pages. It turned over its opinion Twitter feed to actually lobbying against the tax cut. And then, of course, even the conservatives are there. The conservatives are anti-Trump. You've got Brett Stevens, who was hired because he's anti-Trump. Since he was hired, he's also come out and says he'll never vote for the GOP again. There's no attempt at balance. It's a problem that runs throughout.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
The odds are staggering. It's your side. The plan is daring. Initiate. Rolling Stone Rave's Darkest Hour is one of the best pictures of the year.
We shall never surrender!
Rated PG-13. Now in select theaters everywhere tomorrow.
I take pictures of sunrises, but with my back pain, I couldn't sleep and get up in time. Then I found Aleve PM.
Aleve PM is the only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
My wish was a clubhouse, but we call it the Wish House.
And it just immediately brought something positive in our life. Oh, gotta get up, get Matthew on his treatments.
It's not that bad, though.
Yeah.
The good thing about the surgery is I get to have a popsicle at the end.
He makes the best of everything, and he teaches us to be strong and brave, too.
Through the Subaru Share the Love event, we've helped grant the wishes of 1,500 kids so far. Get 0% financing for 63 months on select models. Plus, we'll donate $250 to charity.
Tired of broken corks? Sick of crumbly bits in your glass? Fed up fighting that bottle of wine? With those old-fashioned corkscrews, it happens all the time. Stop! It's time to pop with Pop, the perfect wine opener. Watch, simply insert the pin. A few easy pumps of the handle, and the cork pops right out. You gotta love that.
Beautiful. So easy. What I love about Pop is that it's so easy to use. Even I can use it. 1, 2, 3, pop.
Opening a bottle of wine can't get any easier than this.
The secret is air rise technology that uses the power of air to perfectly push the entire cork up and out of the bottle, doing all the work for you. And removing the cork is easy too. Just push and you're ready to reuse. Left-handed, right-handed, red wine, white wine. With Pop, you get perfect results each and every time. Now you don't have to fight to open your favorite bottle of red or white.
What I absolutely love about it is that it's one step. There's no broken corks. It's easy to use.
No more floating bits of cork in the wine either. No more digging the cork out because you broke it halfway.
Whether the bottle is big or small, short or tall, Pop quickly and easily opens them all. Other wine openers sell for $50 or more, and you can still struggle to get that cork out. But you can get Pop in your choice of color for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. As a bonus, you'll also get our Wine Lovers Kit that includes the one-twist foil cutter, the bottle top aerator, and this clever vacuum sealer that seals, saves, and keeps your wine fresh for up to 2 weeks. A $20 value, yours free. And it all comes with our amazing 10-year, 100% risk-free guarantee. If Pop ever stops, just send it back for a full refund. We'll even pay for the shipping. And so you can give the perfect gift to the wine lover in your life, we'll double the entire order, absolutely free. That's right, no additional shipping charges. That's one Pop kit for you and one to give as a gift, too. Call or go online to vinopop.com now. That's vinopop.com.
First you infected my dad's PC, then you got my wife's. I cleaned up your ugly mess, now I want you out of my life. No, you don't. I can do RBCs. No, you don't. Get by on security. Saves a day, stops every virus in the land, made in the USA. No, you don't. I can do RBCs. No, you don't. Get by on security. No, you don't.
Bureaucrats don't win battles. Soldiers do. And under this president, we will never allow bureaucracy to stand in the way of victory.
Vice President Mike Pence making a surprise visit to Afghanistan to encourage our troops and share a special holiday message. The Veep went on to say, God bless the United States of America. Most watched, most trusted, and most grateful you spent the evening with us. Good night from Washington. I'm Shannon Bream.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. This evening we've got brand new numbers, striking numbers that have never been seen before, and they may reshape how you think about illegal immigration. So you've heard the same line a million times. It's repeated like a mantra by the left during every debate on the subject. All immigrants are hardworking and law-abiding. They do jobs you wouldn't consider doing, and they do them cheerfully. They sacrifice for their families in ways you probably don't. In fact, and this is always the last point, it's always delivered with the confident satisfaction of someone shutting down a debate with superior data, undocumented immigrants actually commit fewer crimes on average than native-born Americans. Not only are immigrants more virtuous than you are, but they're safer to be around. In other words, stop complaining. They're your superiors. But wait, are we sure that that is true? Are people who are in this country precisely because they were willing to break our immigration laws really less likely to break other kinds of laws? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Yet until today, strangely enough, no one could say for sure whether it was true, because reliable statistics didn't seem to exist. Our government tracks pretty much every trend and every phenomenon you can think of, from how many pounds of pistachio nuts are recalled every year, how many fifth graders are injured on swing sets, how many people die in bathtubs. This is a nation of record keepers. We're overseen by an army of spreadsheet-wielding bureaucrats. Numbers control our lives, except on this subject. Somehow, the government went for years without honestly trying to track the volume of crime committed by illegal immigrants in this country. Maybe they were too incompetent to do it. More likely, they didn't want you to know the answer or to think about it even. In any case, we now for the first time have the actual numbers, and here they are. According to statistics from the U.S. Sentencing Commission, non-citizens are actually far more likely to commit serious crimes than Americans are. Non-citizens account for 22%, more than a fifth, of all federal murder convictions, 18% of fraud convictions, 33% of money laundering convictions, 29% of drug trafficking convictions, and 72% of convictions for drug possession. Meanwhile, the non-citizen percentage of the American population, about 7%. So that is a massively disproportionate amount of crime, not even close. No, immigrants are not more law-abiding and less dangerous than Americans. That's totally untrue. Indeed, it's the opposite of the truth. Non-citizens are more likely to be arrested, convicted, and imprisoned for serious crimes than people who were born here. Much more likely. So why didn't we know this until now? Why have so many people been lying to us about this for so long? That's a question we plan to ask a whole bunch of people. Well, we'll start tonight with Ali Noorani. He is Executive Director of the National Immigration Forum, and he joins us in the studio. Thanks, all, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So this is a conversation I've had, I don't know, a dozen times in the past month on this show, where people say, well, actually, non-citizens are less likely to commit crimes. And they cite some Cato study or something. Now we have definitive numbers on this from the U.S. Sentencing Commission that shows that non-citizens are not just more likely to commit crimes, serious crimes like murder and fraud, drug trafficking, but far more likely to commit those crimes. Why are we just learning this now?
Well, the bigger question, I think, Tucker, is how do we make sure that we are keeping the nation secure in a way that's using our valuable law enforcement resources the best way? Because I'll be the first to tell you that we are a nation of laws, and we're a nation that should be keeping Americans safe.
Right.
So let's make sure that law enforcement are in a position to do their job and get those violent threats, those public safety threats off the streets, particularly if they are immigrants. And the way you do that is that you make sure that the immigrant community can trust local law enforcement. So that's why I'm concerned about the direction of the administration when it comes to immigration enforcement, because they're actually undermining the ability of local law enforcement to do their job. So enforcing,
this is like this weird alchemy where enforcing border laws makes us less safe somehow. But let me ask you, if 22% of all federal murder convictions are of non-citizens, but only 7% of the population is non-citizen, that suggests we're letting in the wrong people.
It suggests that we should be doing a much better job in terms of local law enforcement. And the way to do that is to make sure that the immigrant community is in a position to report crimes. Because at the end of the day, those individuals who are immigrants who are committing those crimes, you know who the most likely victim is? The immigrant.
Well, that's irrelevant. Wait, hold on. So you're saying that, wait, hold on. Let's just pause and let these numbers kind of settle, because these have not been public until today. 22% of all federal murder convictions, non-citizens. 33% of money laundering convictions, non-citizens. 29% drug trafficking. 72% of all convictions for drug possession, non-citizens. Non-citizens are far more likely to commit serious crimes than native-born citizens, and foreign-born citizens, for that matter. Why shouldn't this make us want to radically curtail immigration into the country?
It makes me radically want to make sure, that law enforcement are able to do their job, because again, those crimes are being committed within the immigrant community. So but that's not. I mean,
some are, some aren't. Well, hold on. We've got these numbers today, so we actually don't really know where these crimes are being committed. We don't know anything about it other than this. Like, this is the first.
No, but if you actually look at the research shows that the immigrant community is the disproportionate.
But it doesn't matter.
So then, but what matters?
Why are we letting in people who are many times more likely to commit murder, fraud, drug trafficking than people who are born here? Why don't we think through who we let in? Doesn't it suggest that to you?
It suggests to me that our immigration system is fundamentally broken, and we need to make sure that those individuals who are here, who are undocumented, are registering for legal status, passing a criminal background check, learning English, and coming out of the shadows.
I get that you've got your pre-existing priorities that you want. I understand you do it for a living, and I respect that. But again, for the third time, these are brand new numbers. We didn't know them when we woke up this morning. Now we do. The debate is over. Non-citizens far more likely to commit dangerous crimes than citizens. So, with that in mind, does that shock you?
It shocks me that we haven't been approaching the problem the correct way.
But why have we been saying the opposite with such great authority all these years? Well, actually, according to Cato or some think tank, I mean, can we just pause and say, we were totally wrong about what we've been saying?
The problem here is that we want to get violent criminals off the streets. Is that correct?
We don't want them in here in the first place.
We do not want them.
So why are we making law enforcement deal with these people? Why don't we stop it at the border, and then we don't have to put our police and citizens at risk?
I think that's a great idea. And the way you do that is that you make sure that you have a functioning legal immigration system and a process for people to go through. The only people who are hiding from law enforcement...
Really? I thought, don't we bring in more than 1 million people legally every year?
It's clearly out of whack with our needs.
More than any other country in the world?
We're also a much bigger country than almost any other country.
We're not.
Our workforce is actually much more dynamic and fluid.
Maybe. Okay, but leaving the economics of it aside, I mean, that's another show, another debate, but I just want to acknowledge that one of the core operating assumptions that we have had for years, and I've been at the center of this debate, was wrong. Not just wrong, but totally wrong. It was a lie. Does that make you reassess what you thought a little bit?
What I want to try to assess is how do we actually solve the problem? I mean, we can, if you want to quibble about statistics, you should bring somebody from Cato.
No, but it's not quibbling. It's what we've been claiming is the very opposite of the truth.
I want to focus on solving problems. That problem is individuals who are here who are violent criminals and public safety threats. I want them off the streets, Tucker. The only way you can do that is to make sure that the crimes they commit are being reported by the victims. And if the victim is an immigrant, we need to make sure that they can trust their law enforcement.
But why? Well, clearly someone's reporting these crimes. We don't have a problem with that because, again, we have disproportionately big numbers here. My question is, why do you think non-citizens are committing crimes at a far greater rate than Americans are? I
think we got to make sure that individuals who are coming to the country have been properly vetted. They're going through the process they need to. There's a violent threat to our public safety. They're the ones hiding.
Why wouldn't we just build a wall? Like, the public kind of wants that. What's the argument against that exactly?
If you actually want to solve a problem at the border, you want to actually focus where the problem is. The majority of drugs, guns, and money are smuggled at ports of entry.
But these are not drugs and guns and money. These are people committing crimes.
Those individuals who are committing those crimes, they're coming in through ports of entry.
But so do you think a wall wouldn't help at all? Because why?
I want to put money where the risk is on the border, where the majority of drugs...
we didn't even know there was this risk until about 2 hours ago. So maybe we should pause and think about these numbers because they are shocking. You will concede that. Thank you, Ellie. Appreciate it. Mark Stein is an author and a columnist. He joins us tonight. Mark, are you surprised by these numbers?
No, I'm not, because I think it accords with most people's experience of the transformative effect of immigration. And it's logical, too, that when a first world country imports continuously a large, unskilled population into its country illegally, that is an act of law breaking at the conception, and there's no reason why they would then have any other respect for other laws. And to be honest, I mean, I found that last 5 minutes surreal, where your guest's main concern is that certain illegal immigrants are getting crimes committed against them by other illegal immigrants, and they're scared to go to the police. That's not what these statistics show. These statistics, which for political correctness reasons we were prevented from knowing in recent years, show that this country is in effect importing a criminal class, and it does not check any aspect of the criminal class it imports. Now, the few of us who have the misfortune to go through the legal immigration system, I went to see Neil at Homeland Security in Manchester, New Hampshire a couple of years ago, and he asked me about whether I'd committed any crimes, and I said I'd been pulled over by a traffic cop in Montpelier, Vermont, for passing a little old lady at 17 miles an hour, but I got the case dismissed. Neil from Homeland Security in Manchester, New Hampshire, wanted to see proof that the state of Vermont had actually dismissed that complaint against me. So we have a bifurcated system here in which law-abiding people have to dot every I and cross every T, and every single day we import drug gangs, money launderers, murderers, drunk drivers, because the professional lobby group your previous guest represented somehow thinks this is in the interests of the United States. It's not at all.
The rector of my church spent the better part of a year waiting for a visa. He spent 20 years in the British Army. They didn't want any more Scottish Anglicans in this country because they're dangerous. Meanwhile, all of Congress is arguing about how we can keep people who snuck in illegally here, and you're a bigot if you're not for that. So what does this reduce? So, like, the key argument has always been that immigrants are better than we are. I mean, isn't that the argument you hear every day? Like, they commit fewer crimes than you do. They work harder. They're just better people. How dare you complain about them? Now that we know these crime rates are way higher than they are for American native-born, what's their argument now?
Well, Nancy Pelosi has said that we ought to thank the parents of the Dreamers for bringing them here because, as you say, they're better than us. If you listen to people like your previous guest, every single Dreamer is a high school valedictorian just wrapping up his third tour of Afghanistan. They're way better than us. So the only way to get the general depravity rate down in the United States is to import more and more low-skilled immigrants illegally across the Rio Grande. That's the argument Jorge Ramos makes. Oh no, you're much safer being in a town of illegal immigrants than you are in a town whose population got off the Mayflower. And the fact of the matter is this is absolutely the inverse of the truth. The statistics you cited, even taken as a whole, 94% of these non-citizen criminals in federal custody, and by the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg because 90% of incarceration is at the state and local level. But the proportions show that about 94% of these non-citizen criminals in U.S. federal prison are illegal immigrants. Why does any country need to import a criminal class? If that is one of the jobs that Americans will do. Americans are happy to murder and rape and sell drugs to each other. You don't need to import other people to do that.
Yeah. Well, one job that Americans are less interested in is voting Democrat, and these are people who will do that. So that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point.
Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. Treatment of the terror group Hezbollah. Stay tuned.
One fateful day, two of Mitsubishi's safest siblings were separated. The Roberts family adopted the Outlander, while Mike and Jenny took home the Outlander Sport. But no matter where their journeys take them, they'll always be part of America's safest crossover family. The 2018 Mitsubishi Outlander and Outlander Sport, starting at $22,995. Get $3,500 cash back and make no payments for 90 days or 0% APR for 84 months.
I saw the change in Rich when we moved into the new house, but having his parents over was enlightening.
You don't like my lasagna?
No, it's good.
Here, blow. Blow on it.
You see it, right?
Is there a draft in here? I'm telling you, it's so easy to get home insurance on Progressive.com.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto.
We're on a mission to show the new Keurig K-Select Brewer is the strong way to start your day. Pop that in there, hit strong, press brew, that's it.
Strong, bold, rich.
I feel like you're toying with me. Show me how strong you are. Adam! Lift me up, Dan, lift me up.
For drug-free sinus relief, get Navage, the only nose cleaner with powered suction to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs.
I used to get so congested, but Navage cleans out all the stuff that makes me miserable so I can breathe again.
Now at CVS Pharmacy and Navage.com.
After Mom's hospital and rehab stay, we didn't think we'd get another chance to celebrate a holiday with her. But Visiting Angels has given us the greatest gift possible. Mom at home, happy, well cared for, and most importantly, safe. Sarah's not just a caregiver, she's part of the family, helping us keep our traditions alive.
Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115. A crucial conservative voice. We look at the extraordinary journey of one of America's most influential figures, Charles Krauthammer. A Life That Matters, anchored by Brett Baer.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-650-0494.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila, sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-650-0494, or visit SoClean.com today.
The Obama administration has been out of power for almost a year, but we're still finding little Easter eggs of scandal scattered around the front lawn of Washington. At the request of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, DOJ officials are interviewing FBI agents about the Uranium One deal in an attempt to determine if another special counsel is warranted to keep investigating that. Meanwhile, Congress is asking the Department of Justice to turn over all documents and communications related to an alleged multi-year effort under the last administration to basically give some space to Hezbollah to sell drugs internationally, including in this country, in order to make sure the Iran deal went through. Philippe Rames is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. He was a longtime advisor to Hillary Clinton, and he joins us tonight. So, Philippe, both these stories, I think it's possible to overstate their significance, but at their core, both of them have important elements. So start with Uranium One. And I'll just concede you're a former Hillary spokesman. I don't think she's necessarily the villain of the story.
Thank you for the concession.
No, I think she is a villain in the story. But the Obama administration allowed Russia, a Russian-controlled company, control over some large percentage of our uranium reserves. Like, that's kind of beyond dispute. Why was that ever a good idea? And why is no one in the press asking a really simple question like, why'd you allow that to happen?
Well, I think they did. And there's a process for that. It's called CFIUS.
Yes, I know.
It's any time that any asset of the United States that has a national security implication is to be sold to a foreign element, it has to go through a very rigorous review. Now, the Secretary of State and the State Department are part of that, but there are 9 departments and ultimately the President. Now, in this case, we can get into the real nitty-gritty of it, but we were not turning over the keys to the uranium kingdom. It passed muster, and we were no less.
The responsibility was diffuse, I'll concede. But
it's not diffuse. It's with 9 different cabinets.
9 different agencies. It's not just one agency. That's the point. But they're all within the same administration. But the macro question remains unanswered, which is the Russian government wound up with control over uranium deposits in Wyoming, in the United States. If you consider Russia our chief strategic rival, then why would you ever allow that? Like, why is that a good idea? I don't understand.
Well, they were buying into a Canadian company.
Correct.
It was a Canadian company.
Well, we could have stopped it. The Obama people could have stopped it.
We could have, and obviously the people who looked at this, who have nothing at stake other than what's in the best interests of our national security, determined that this did not in any way impede that.
But given that we know that there's never been an adversary more terrifying or dangerous to American democracy than Vladimir Putin, who literally haunts the dreams of 50% of the people in Washington, why haven't
disagreement here?
I'm saying that sarcastically because I don't actually think he's the gravest threat to American national security, but every Democrat thinks that, and yet they allowed him control over our uranium. Why haven't they apologized?
There's nothing to apologize for.
Okay, so how can he simultaneously...
The person who owes an apology writ large is Vladimir Putin to all of us for what he's done to our democracy in the last
so he's
year.
evil, you say, but simultaneously you say it's okay that the Obama people allowed him control of our uranium.
It's why we have a very rigorous process, whether the president's name is Obama or Trump or Bush or Clinton, to make sure that we are in no way turning over assets that should not be in foreign hands. There's a reason why it's such a rigorous process.
Assets, I think we
because
both
it was
agree.
determined that this Canadian company...
Right, but it was the wrong decision, obviously.
Well, that's...
So why shouldn't the people who made it apologize and say, yes, I imperiled American national security by my lack of wisdom, by my foolishness, my short-sightedness. I didn't understand how dangerous Russia was. I'm part of the problem. I apologize. They do that in Japan. Why aren't they doing it here?
I don't know who that would be. I know that's not me.
The 9 heads of those agencies,
I know it's not
Secretary
me.
Clinton.
Well, Secretary Clinton didn't roll up her sleeves and get into the, like, let's look at the uranium.
Her agency signed off on it. She should apologize, no?
No.
No. Okay, no apologies.
No.
All right.
Not on Uranium 1.
I kind of sensed you were going to say that.
No, not on Uranium 1, no.
Huh. So what about the other question this evening, and that is the Politico piece that pretty much demonstrates that Treasury Department and DEA officials were stymied in their efforts to control Hezbollah's international money laundering and drug dealing operations. These are not partisan right-wingers. These are people who worked for the Obama administration. They're saying our goals were sublimated because of the Iran deal. I don't see why that's not a scandal. It seems like a scandal to me.
Well, I think, first off, most people, including in the Obama administration, didn't know where this came from. When you look at these stories, there are 2 people. They may not be crazy, out there, right-wing, whatever you want to call them, but they have been vociferously against the Iran deal from the beginning.
There are dozens of people.
The 2 primary sources in there, but
the author said there were dozens of people, a lot of them Democrats, all of them Obama employees who said.
Well, there are 4 on-the-record sources today in the Washington Post for the CIA, the NSC, the White House, and for the State Department saying that this didn't happen, that you would never in a million years do anything to impede.
Okay, then there are people who obviously don't, and they may be right.
Let's look into it.
Wait, let's look into it. So the allegation is made by Obama staffers, former Obama staffers, that cocaine was sold in this country, narcotics, because the Obama people allowed it to be because they didn't want to.
I really doubt that.
All right.
I doubt that.
But you would have no problem with an investigation
I have no problem
to get to the bottom
with
of it.
investigating. I have a problem with what's turning into interference and intimidation. And I think what we're seeing, it's one thing. Right. You have news sources. I have my news sources. We go back at night. We have our separate corners.
This is political.
But we have to share. No, but with something like investigations, we can't fight over the FBI.
Well, I agree. And
that's what's happening now.
But they shouldn't be partisan.
But,
you know what I mean?
Well, but what's happening, and I think the common ground here is that Comey definitely did a number on the FBI. But they are now caught in some kind of divorced parents tug-of-war.
I'm being told we have to go. But I agree with you on that. Philippe, thank you. Is she a left-wing activist, or could she be a Russian spy? Congress wants to investigate Jill Stein of the Green Party for possible collusion with Vladimir Putin, believe it or not. She joins us next.
When I was 12, I started volunteering for national parks. I go out and demonstrate to people what life was like in the 18th century. You can have almost a spiritual experience with the beauty of nature or with a connection with the past. There's no better place to find that than a national park, which preserves that beauty and the history.
The Subaru Share the Love event has donated over $6.5 million to help the national parks. Get 0% financing for 63 months on select models. Plus, we'll donate $250 to charity.
After my DVT blood clot, I had a lot on my... Eliquis had both, and that turned around my thinking.
Don't stop Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. If you had a spinal injection while on Eliquis, call your doctor right away if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
Both made Eliquis right for me.
Ventures to be part of my life. I pretty much decided Clear Choice was the route I was going to take.
Let's do a head-to-head comparison of dental implants versus dentures. With dentures,
The ability to taste food, to bite and chew is altered. The worst thing about dentures, bone loss. When you put an implant inside the bone, which is like the root of a tooth, now you preserve the bone. It's a game changer. With implants, you walk into a restaurant, you order anything you want. You eat just like you have real teeth.
Before you knew it, here I was with my brand new teeth.
Schedule your free consultation today. We'll even talk about financing options.
I can smile, my confidence is back.
Call Clear Choice today.
Having my mom around to help with my daughter means the world to me, so I got her a smartphone.
Amanda, I'm out front, honey.
It's the all-new Jitterbug Smart from Great Call. It's got one of the biggest, brightest screens, and with the built-in 5-star app, I know she can always get help.
One touch and you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
For the holidays, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, and Sears.
Deputy FBI Director, the newly famous Andrew McCabe, testified before the Congress for more than 7 hours yesterday, Tuesday. His testimony was hidden behind closed doors, but now Fox can report that he appeared to contradict himself at least once during his testimony. He also failed to offer support for the infamous Trump dossier. Fox chief national correspondent Ed Henry has details in that story. Hey, Ed.
Well, Tucker, he just wrapped up about another 7, 8 hours of testimony behind closed doors before another committee tonight. Bottom line question is simple, and you got into it a moment ago. At the FBI, which is supposed to be nonpartisan, was there a pro-Clinton bias that led people like Andrew McCabe to let Hillary Clinton off the hook, not just on the email server, but Uranium One as well? And what's interesting is when you look at those two investigations, they were overseen by 3 key FBI figures. James Comey, who's been tweeting a lot lately about truth and justice, McCabe as his deputy, a job he still holds today, and the agent who led the Clinton server investigation, Peter Strzok, who of course sent all of those pro-Clinton text messages. Perhaps the most important texts refer to a meeting in Andrew McCabe's office where FBI officials allegedly discussed an insurance policy in case Donald Trump was elected, hinting at a plan to investigate him. Yet after all of that questioning by the House Intel panel, we still have little clarity on what they meant. And McCabe testified he could not recall when he learned the Clinton camp and the DNC paid for that unverified anti-Trump dossier that was funneled to the FBI in the summer of 2016 and may have been the basis for the Obama administration's surveillance of General Michael Flynn and possibly others. That's led Republicans to charge the material from those wiretaps was used to weaponize the investigation of President-elect Trump that morphed into the special counsel probe. And what you ask could possibly be affecting Andrew McCabe's memory about all this? It turns out his wife ran for state senate in Virginia in 2015. She received several $100,000 in campaign cash from an organization controlled by Virginia's Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe, who's obviously very, very close to the Clintons. Doesn't prove there was corruption, but this is one of the things that really infuriates people about these investigations, Tucker, which is you've got someone in Andrew McCabe at the center of all of this and at the center of investigating Hillary Clinton around 2015, 2016. And his wife was receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions.
And he did not recuse himself from the investigation.
Not at all. He was a deputy director.
What does she say in her defense? Jill Stein joins us tonight. Dr. Stein, thanks for coming on.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Are you now or have you ever been an agent of Russia? Do you speak Russian? How often do you talk to Vladimir Putin?
Like, not at all. Like, even when briefly he sat at this head table at a conference. I was in Moscow for a conference, attended actually by the BBC, by the Canadian Broadcast System, by the state TV networks for China, India, Telesur, etc. This was a actual legitimate conference. It's all up on the web. There's nothing secret about it. We were posting information, putting out press releases, no backroom deals, no secret meetings in oligarchy towers or anything like that. All very transparent and public. The dinner at the end of the conference was really a non-event. At one point, Putin came in with a couple of guys that I assumed were his bodyguards. Turns out they were actually his inner circle, but you would have never known it. Nobody was introduced to anybody. There was no translator. Actually, not a word exchanged. At one point,
Putin made a very rapid turn around the table and shook everybody's hand, but without any exchange of names. So that's about as significant as this was.
Well, that sounds like collusion to me. So wait, can we get to your real crime, which was running for president as a third-party candidate? And in the view of a lot of people in Washington, you got Donald Trump elected. Do you see this as punishment for the crime of running for president?
Yes. Yes. I mean, in many